My name is Ilia Malinin, and I am a singles U.S. figure skater.
Imagine training your entire life for one single moment, one performance, one shot at immortality. You win 12 competitions in a row. You land jumps no human being on earth has ever landed. The entire country puts a crown on your head before you even step onto the ice. And then, in the most watched sporting event on the planet, everything collapses. Not in a slow fade, in front of billions of people in real time. The cameras catch every second of it. But here's the part nobody is talking about. When it was all over, the cameras didn't stop. This is the story of Ilia Malinin, and it's about a lot more than figure skating. Going into the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan, Italy, Ilia Malinin wasn't just the favorite, he was the story. At just 21 years old, this kid had done something the sport had never seen. He invented the quad axel, a jump so technically insane that other elite skaters refused to attempt it competitively. He had won 2 straight world championships, 3 straight Grand Prix finals. He walked into those games having won 12 international events in a row dating back to November of 2023. 12 in a row, in the most technically demanding individual sport on Earth. The American media couldn't get enough of him. NBC branded him the face of the games. His story was everywhere, every magazine cover, every highlight reel, every pre-Olympic special. He was being positioned not just as a gold medal favorite, but as the next great American sports icon, a once-in-a-generation talent who was going to remind the world that the United States still produces greatness. And then the moment arrived. Going into the free skate, Malinin held a 5-point lead after the short program. He was, by every metric, a lock for gold. His chief rival had already skated. The math was simple. All he had to do was be Ilia Malinin. He wasn't. The quad axel, his signature, the move he had built his career on, never came. Jump after jump, something was off. Errors piled up. 72 deduction points erased the lead, erased the podium, erased everything. The kid who had been called Quad God for 2 years finished 8th. 8th. And when his music stopped, the cameras found his face immediately. Hands on his knees, head down, eyes holding back something he clearly didn't want the world to see. And here's where the story gets complicated. 3 months later, Ilia Malinin sat down with the Minnesota Star-Tribune, and he didn't hold back. He talked about what it felt like to be turned into a narrative before the competition even started. He talked about the pressure of being made into the face of American hope at an Olympics he had never competed in before. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, that in the end, everyone was using him to produce attention, that being positioned as the Olympic gold hopeful, that machine of expectation, was not right. It was too much to handle. But then he went further. He talked specifically about what happened after the performance, after he stumbled off the ice, after his worst moment in years became the defining image of his first Olympics. He said that even after everything that happened, the cameras stayed on him, not on the medalists who had just made history, not on the champion from Kazakhstan who pulled off one of the great upsets of the games. The cameras stayed on Ilia Malinin, waiting, hunting for the reaction, capturing the breakdown. They were constantly filming me, even though they could have filmed the medalists, he said. All they were doing was waiting for my reaction. And then he said something that cuts right to the bone of what's wrong with how we cover athletes in this country. There are ways to avoid that and still give the right amount of attention to everyone. Think about what that means for a second. This is a 21-year-old athlete at his first Olympic Games, in the worst moment of his professional life, asking for the basic human dignity of not being filmed while he processes a devastating loss. And the cameras didn't give it to him, because in the attention economy, suffering sells. Tears are content. Heartbreak is engagement. This isn't a new conversation. Simone Biles started it in Tokyo. Naomi Osaka sparked it on the tennis court. Coco Gauff lived it at the 2026 Australian Open. Athletes at the highest level are increasingly pushing back against a media culture that treats them like emotional props, like the feelings are the product, not the performance. And what's fascinating about Malinin's story is that he didn't disappear, he didn't retreat. He came back to the World Figure Skating Championships in Prague just weeks later, and he won. Third straight world title, 329 points, gold in both the short program and the free skate. The comeback was so complete, so dominant, that it almost reframed the Olympics entirely. Almost. Because here's the thing that his critics and the media cycle tend to gloss over. Winning 12 consecutive international competitions is not luck. Rebuilding from a catastrophic Olympic failure to win a world championship weeks later is not luck. That is character. That is what elite performance actually looks like. Not a perfect highlight reel, but the ability to walk back into the arena after you've publicly broken down and do it anyway. He said something before the Olympics that deserves to be revisited now. He told the media at Olympics.com they think that we're like robots and there to entertain, but really we're all athletes, and all of this takes mental challenges. He said it before the Olympics, almost like a warning, almost like he knew. There's a question at the center of all of this that the sports media hasn't seriously grappled with. When does coverage cross into exploitation? When does the camera become predatory? We have entire cultural conversations about consent, about privacy, about the damage of relentless public exposure. And yet when an athlete is at their most vulnerable, crouched over on the ice, processing a dream falling apart in real time, we treat it as the most valuable footage of the entire competition. Ilia Malinen's story is bigger than figure skating. It's bigger than the Olympics. It's a story about what we demand from the people we build up, and whether we're willing to give them the space to be human when they inevitably fall short of the impossible standard we set. He didn't ask for sympathy. He asked for fairness. He asked for a camera that sometimes points somewhere else. And maybe, just maybe, the fact that he's saying this out loud, with his name attached, at 21 years old, while already a 3-time world champion, is the most powerful performance of his career. If this story hit different for you, subscribe, because we're covering the sports moments that actually matter, the ones behind the scoreboard, underneath the medals, inside the athletes who carry the weight of a nation's expectations. Like this video if you think athletes deserve more than this, and drop a comment below. Do you think the media went too far? Let's actually talk about it.